Hey guys, Pedro here to tell you about the latest from Burning Witches, The Dark Tower, out May 5th on Napalm Records. This album has 15 tracks, 64 minutes in length, and this is the band's 5th full-length studio album. They are a Swiss heavy power metal band. Now, these girls put together a record that, across all the different parameters, is an old school classic heavy metal hard rock album. It has elements of both, some power metal as well, but I feel like this is more your prototypical new wave of British heavy metal sounding album with a lot of hard rock influences. Now, when you're putting together an album that has this old school style format and even soundscape, you have to go with an old school design. And that's exactly what they did. This is an album that has a clear side A and a clear side B. Both of them have an intro track that introduces you to those two experiences, and side A finishes with a ballad, Tomorrow, the perfect way of ending that side and then re-engaging you for what comes next. I really like this format. It matches everything that the album is all about, and it actually still creates a very dynamic experience, not just because you have these defined parameters, these bookshelves that allow you to see the beginning, middle, and end. You know, that doesn't take away from the mobility that the record has, because this album still has a lot of ebbs and flows. Most of those ebbs and flows are created by the influences of the songs, either be them more new wave of British heavy metal sound, classic heavy metal, power metal, or even hard rock. That's where the subtle changes are happening, and that's where you see the ebbs and flows, because the overall sound experience is very balanced and uniform from start to finish, regardless of the influence, regardless of where the song is taking you. But a very engaging, very dynamic record. You honestly don't notice the length of the album because it just goes by in a blink of an eye. It's a great record from a design point of view. As far as the sound is concerned, I think this is where fans are going to notice a little bit of a difference from previous records. This album to me felt that it had two different elements, two important elements to define it, but different from previous albums. This is a record that has a thicker sound, and with that thicker sound comes more of a dense approach, a more dense volume, and that creates also heaviness and makes the songs feel heavier. On the other side, when you have that sort of production that enhances that, you also create this Black Sabbath production style that gives darkness to the music. This is by far their darkest sounding album to date. These two elements really work well with one another because they feed off of each other. And this is where you're going to find the balanced soundscape from start to end. It doesn't matter if it's a ballad, it doesn't matter if it's more of a power metal style track, it doesn't matter if it's a classic heavy metal song or a song that has some hard rock influences into it. All of them have that thick, dense volume to them, and all of them have a different level of darkness depending on the subject matter of the song, depending on the sound behind it. But it's there. It's a balanced and cohesive approach from beginning to end. Now, personally, it took me a little bit of time to get used to it, because that's the first thing that I noticed was how dense, how thick the sound was, how much bass almost the sound had all around. And once I got over that hump, because I was expecting the album honestly to be a little bit crisper, to be a little bit more defined, to be a little bit cleaner, a little bit lighter, if you will, for lack of a better term. And the album actually, it's really at the bottom. So it took me a little bit of time to kind of forget about what my idea was coming in and rather appreciate what I got. And when I think about the design of the record, when I think about the song choices in terms of the construction of the song, of the musicality of the song, of the vocal deliveries on the song, everything about this album is old school. So I don't think you can create a record that feels like it's been stuck in a time capsule and then go with a more modern production. One would take away from the other. So the more I listened to this record, the more I understood the album, the more I felt like I was traveling back in time, the better the production felt to me, the better it sounded to me. I think it might take a little bit of time for some fans to really grasp that concept or to get over that hump, but once you do, you're gonna see that this album is strength from start to end. It has great qualities, it has great attributes, and you don't have to go too far. Go to the guitar sound. I mean, this album has incredible solos front to back. You can close your eyes, pick a song, you're gonna find outstanding solos. A lot of harmonies in the solos, which I really like. A lot of extended solo sections, which I really like. Every solo matching either the intensity of the song, the volume of the song, the emotion of the song, but every solo added value to the experience that that song had. It's not like you felt listening to one of these tracks that, wow, that's a great solo, but it's disconnected from the song in general. No, the solo always felt like the proper continuation of where the song is going. And the overall guitar playing, like I said, because of the dense, thick, big volume style sound approach from a production point of view, the guitars sound even bigger, they sound thicker, they sound fatter. And that is also a nice, interesting approach for them, because it makes them feel like instead of 2 guitar players, they have 3 guitar players, 4 guitar players. It just adds a lot more to the overall experience of these songs, to the impact that they can have, and then obviously the lyrics and the vocal performance behind them. The drums on this album, a little bit of the same, very powerful, very thick, a lot of bass into them, but just really contributing to this wall of sound that it's coming at you, and sometimes becoming very hard to define where the drums end and when the guitars start, but still infusing some more melodic guitar riffs into this wall of sound really helps at times thin out the songs a little bit, or at least give them a break, allow them to breathe a little bit better, and allowing the songs to have individual fingerprints along them, so that you don't just feel like every single song sounds exactly the same, because the overall backdrop is very similar from track to track. So a lot of great work on this album in order to create consistency, but not necessarily repetition. Vocally, I honestly think this is Laura's best performance since joining the band. Perhaps the most organic performance from her, the more dynamic performance. I felt like her voice was extremely well placed on these tracks in terms of the choice of range in delivery from track to track, depending on the mood of the song, depending on the level of darkness that the song has. And I felt like we got some lower ends of her range that we perhaps hadn't seen before up until this point. When the songs got really dark, she really went there. She added to that darkness, and she's someone that has a lot of bright, a lot of spunk in her delivery. That brightness and that spunk is still there, but I think you're going to see a different side of her, a much darker side of her on this album, matching the overall darkness that the sound has. So, in my humble opinion, I can make an argument, an easy argument for this being their best record to date. But I'm just going to say that this is the best album since Laura joined the band. Easily. That one is easy for me to say. But I could definitely make an argument for this being their best record. I think it's their most complete work. When you look at the design, when you look at the structure, how the album flows, the amount of songs that it has, the length that it has, and how it doesn't become boring at any point in time. All of these are great attributes that really showcase the quality of a record. And allow you to really feel connected with these songs. And it all, to me, comes down to the darkness, to the production, to that old school approach, at times very Iron Maiden-esque. And this record is all of the above. I love this album because of it. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Evil Witch. Talk about dark, but the topic of the song really plays into it as well. Thick, thunderous sound, drums and guitars working once again together. Sometimes very hard to see where one ends and where the other one starts, but that's how you build that wall of sound around it. Very direct in the verses, great tempo, the chorus more melodic, musically and vocally more melodic, a richer chorus, if you will, allowing it to become a very memorable experience. The chorus becomes an earworm. Outstanding solo section. It's kind of like catching lightning in the bottle as far as that solo section is concerned, really completing the song. But it all comes down to the guitar sound, the melodic innuendos that get injected in, and then that memorable chorus. I have to talk about Tomorrow. This is the ballad of the record, and it's a really cool ballad because it's very stripped down. It feels very naked, very vulnerable, but it still has hints of darkness in it, and that consistent thickness of sound, that dense approach, it's still there, and that helps with that atmosphere to stay balanced throughout the entire record. I really like Laura's voice in this song because it felt very warm. It matched the overall warmth of the sound as well. It's a song that has some subtle bass impact. The bass on this track, perhaps because of the stripped down effect of the song, really pops. It's easier to detect, and it gives it a heartbeat. It gives a little bit of a soul to this track. So it's a great song. The solo section matching the beauty and how heartfelt this whole track is. It has a great delivery. The guitar harmonies and that solo really allow the solo to stand out. Just beautifully executed, beautifully done. Great ballad all around. Last but definitely not least, Doomed to Die. Now, the first thing that I notice about this song is the way they sing Doomed to Die. It almost feels like du hast mich. It honestly, I don't know if that's where they took their influence for. Not that the two songs don't sound nothing alike, but just the way they deliver that doom to die. Like, that portion there totally reminded me of Du hast. I enjoyed it because I thought it was really cool. It was like I was listening to a classic heavy metal song inspired by Du hast, and not that it sounds nothing like it, but it just has that little cameo there, if you will. Works really well. It makes the song super memorable. It makes the song extremely enjoyable from that point of view. It's a song that just becomes memorable because of the repetition of Doomed to Die. Like, it gets repeated throughout the entire track and still doesn't get boring because it's a cool delivery. There's that pause there. There's a cool delivery. And like I said, it reminds me of Du hast, so I'm all for it. Great track. I love the thickness of the song, something that every track has on this album. This one is no exception. But this one, I enjoyed it because there's some melodic riffs that get injected in that allow you to see some cracks in that thickness, some cracks in that dense wall that it has, and that allows the track right away to feel a little bit more unique from everything else around it, outside of the vocal delivery and outside of that of the way that they use the title in order to make the title memorable within the track and not necessarily just depend on a chorus to do so. So I really enjoyed this song. I really enjoyed the design and definitely the execution. This is it. Burning Witches, The Dark Tower, out May 5th on Napalm Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.